Hello, good people. Welcome back to Lensa Bencana News with me, Fatiha Sufiana, on January 28, 2025. The headline for today is about Mount Ibu eruption threatens evacuation of over 3,000 residents. The National Disaster Mitigation Agency, or BNPB, indicated that over 3,000 people residing in West Halmahera District, North Maluku Province, may need to evacuate due to increased volcanic activity at Mount Ibu. Speaking in Jakarta on Thursday, Head of BNPB's Disaster Data, Information and Communication Center, Abdul Muhari, note that this estimate is based on a previous evacuation conducted during a similar incident in May last year. He added that the plan is to evacuate residents of several villages in North Ibu sub-district, such as Sangajinyeku and Tokuoku, which are within the volcano's eruption radius. In principle, we have built a sound level of coordination in West Halmahera. It is just a matter of the execution, he emphasized. On that note, Muhari highlighted that the BNPB will maintain ongoing communication with the West Halmahera District Government, the National Armed Forces, or TNI, the National Police, or Polri, and the National Search and Rescue Agency, or Basarnas. The official underlined that the evacuation will follow the recommendation and guidelines of the Geological Agency of the Energy and Mineral Research Ministry. On Wednesday, January 15 afternoon, the Geological Agency elevated Mount Ibu danger status to the highest level of 4, due to the substantial intensification of volcanic activities detected by the agency team during the January 1 to 14 period. The agency has urged residents and tourists to avoid any activities within a 5-kilometer radius of the volcano. In response to the situation, the district government has declared a 14-day emergency response status to facilitate the execution of emergency measures. Officials at the Mount Ibu observation post in Gem ICE village, West Halmahera, record an average of 70 eruptions per day this month, with eruption columns reaching heights of up to 4 kilometers above the volcano's summit. Throughout this period, Mount Ibu has caused 748 eruption earthquakes, 70 avalanche earthquakes, 1,643 ghost earthquakes, 6,976 shallow volcanic earthquakes, 3,046 deep volcanic earthquakes, and 60 local tectonic earthquakes, with a dominant amplitude of 3 millimeters. Well, good people, that's all the news for today, and I am Fatiha Sufiana. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day!
Good evening and welcome to the evening news. I am Ilmita Fadila and these are tonight's top stories. Investigators have finished extracting data from one of the black boxes from the FedEx Jeju airplane that crashed on Sunday, South Korea's Transport Ministry has said. The data from the cockpit voice recorder will now be converted into an audio file, while a second black box, a flight data recorder, will be sent to the unit status for the analysis. Investigators hope data on the flight and voice recorders will provide insight about the crucial moments leading up to the tragedy. Some 179 people died after the plane crashed into a structure and exploded, making it the deadliest plane crash on South Korean soil. Investigators say it is not feasible to locally decode the flight data recorder, which was damaged in the crash and is missing a crucial connector. South Korean experts will be involved in the analysis process in the US, they said, adding that they are in discussion with the US National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, on when to hand over the flight data recorder. NTSB has deployed officials to the crash site in South Korea's Mon County to help investigate the cause of the plane crash. The Boeing 737-800 plane was traveling from Bangkok when it crash-landed at Mon International Airport on Sunday and slid into a wall of the end of the runway, bursting into flames and killing everyone on board except two crew members. Many questions remain unanswered, and investigators are looking at the role a bird strike or weather conditions may have played. They are also examining the concrete wall at the end of the runway, which some experts say could have exacerbated the impact of the crash. The passengers on Flight 7C2216 were aged between 3 and 78 years old, although most were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, to Yonhap News Agency. The two nationals are among the dead, and the rest are believed to be South Koreans, authorities have said. It had taken officials days to identify the body stroke, fingerprints, or DNA, with saliva samples collected from family members, as many of them have been severely damaged. But on Wednesday, acting President Choi Sang-mok announced that all 179 victims on board the flight have now been identified. New Year's Day celebrations across the country have been cancelled or scaled down out of respect for the victims and their family, and authorities have announced a 7-day period of national mourning. At a press conference on Tuesday, Jeju CEO Kim Yi-bae said that the airline was preparing emergency compensation for the victims' family and would cover funeral costs. He also said that a pre-flight inspection of the plane had found no issues. Investigations into the cause of the crash were ongoing. That's new news for today. I'll take my leave. Good evening.
Hello, good evening everyone. Back with me Nur Aziza Shahbani in Evening News. This time we will be delivering the news of Sumatran Rhino Sanctuary in S. Aceh. The Ministry of Forestry has notion that the conservation of the Sumatran Rhino Sanctuary in S. Aceh is on track for completion this year. The construction began in 2021 and is currently focused on completing 2 paddocks, 4 compartments covering an area of 10 hectares along with a veterinary clinic. The Buma, treatment cakes, and keeper house have already been completed, said Satyawan Pudiatmoko, Director General of Natural Resource and Ecosystem Conservation at the Ministry of Forestry during a meeting at his office on Thursday, January 9, 2025. He emphasized that rhino conservation efforts have been enhanced through rescue operations, particularly for rhinos that have been ventured outside their natural habitat into community plantation within the Forest Management Unit of East Aceh and West Aceh. Rescued rhino can be placed in sanctuary facility to support intensive breeding program, Satyawan explained. He said the ministry is building partnership with several parties for Sumatran rhino conservation, including the Indonesian Rhino Foundation, the Loser Conservation Forum, and Alt-Art. He also mentioned a cooperation plan with World Wide Fund to support Indonesian biodiversity conservation, particularly rhinos. Collaboration with other parties will be pursued based on principle of mutual trust, respect, and benefit, he said. Regarding the conservation of Javan rhinos in Ujung Kulon National Park, Satyawan assured continued effort to enhance security in the park and monitor the rhino population in collaboration with technical partners, local communities, and the Indonesian Armed Forces and National Police. He added such increased law enforcement measures will be implemented to deter rhino poaching. Furthermore, the monitoring of Javan rhinos has been improved through a more systematic approach to camera trap deployment. We are also adopting the successful semi-natural breeding technique implemented at SRS Waikambas through the Javan rhinos study and conservation area in Ujung Kulon National Park, Satyawan concluded. And that was the news for this evening. I am Nur Aziza Syahbani. Good evening and see you next time.
Good morning everyone, with me Cindy Vinda Maria Kaur. I will accompany you on today's news. A surge in flu-like human metapneumovirus case in China has raised fears of another COVID-style pandemic. Images of hospitals filled with masked patients have been widely circulated on social media. But health experts say SMPV is not like COVID and suggest that it has been around for years. They say China and other countries are only experiencing the seasonal increase in SMPV that is usually seen in winter. First identified in the Netherlands in 2001, SMPV spread through direct contact between people or when someone touches a contaminated surface. The virus leads to a mild upper respiratory tract infection for most people. It's usually almost indistinguishable from flu. Symptoms for most people include a cough, a fever, and blocked nose. The very young, including children under 2, are most vulnerable to the virus. It also poses a greater risk to those with a weakened immune system, including the elderly and those with advanced cancer, according to Su Liang, an infectious disease specialist in Singapore. If infected, a small but significant proportion of immunocompromised people can develop more severe disease where the lungs are affected, with wheezing, breathlessness, and symptoms of croup. Many will require hospital care with a smaller population at risk of dying from the infection, Dr. Su said. And like many respiratory infections, SMPV is most active during late winter and spring. This is because viruses survive better in the cold and can pass more easily from one person to another as people spend more time indoors with closed windows. In northern China, the current SMPV spike coincides with low temperatures that are expected to last until March. And many other countries in the northern hemispheres, including the US, are also experiencing a growth in rates of SMPV, said Jacqueline Stephan, an epidemiologist at Flinders University in Australia. While this is concerning, the increased prevalence is likely the normal seasonal increase seen in winter, she said. The World Health Organization is monitoring rates of flu-like illness across the northern hemisphere and said it has not received any reports of unusual outbreak patterns in China or elsewhere. It said Chinese authorities have confirmed that the healthcare system is not overwhelmed, and there have been no emergency declaration or responses to date. The incidence of SMPV in the UK has risen steadily since October 2024. The UK Health and Security Agency does not publish the number of cases recorded, however, its latest data show the percentage of people testing positive for the disease rose sharply in the third week of December and remained at the higher level of the following week. But the UK SSA say this is completely in line with normal seasonal trends, and the level of disease being seen in GP surgeries and hospitals is as expected. Fears of a COVID-style pandemic are overblown. Experts say nothing that such events are typically caused by new virus, which is not the case with SMPV. The disease is already globally present and has been around for decades. This means people across the world have some degree of existing immunity due to previous exposure, Dr. Su said. Almost every child will have at least one infection with SMPV by their 5th birthday, and we can expect to go on to have multiple infections throughout life, said Paul Hunter, a medical professor at University of Anglia in England. I don't think there are currently any sign of more serious global issue. However, health officials recommend taking sensible precautions to avoid catching SMPV and other respiratory illnesses. First, wearing a mask in a crowded place. And 2, avoiding crowds where possible if you are at high risk of more severe illness. And 3, washing your hands regularly. And the last, disposing of tissues securely. People may also wish to consider getting vaccinated against other respiratory conditions such as the flu. In the UK, pregnant women and adults aged 75 to 79 are advised to get the respiratory syncytial virus vaccine, but can sometimes be serious for babies and older adults. That's all for today's report. I'm Cindy Vina Maria Kaulur. Good morning and see you!
Hello everyone, back again with me Sophia Hemawan on the breaking news on January 30, 2025. Para Surfing Champion Southport is attainable. Newly crowned Para Surfing World Champion Joe Smith said, "It is important that he shows people that the sport is attainable for anyone with a disability." Smith won gold in the stand-2 category at the ESA World Parasurfing Championships in Huntington Beach, California last month to claim her first world title. The Bournemouth athlete took up the sport in 2021, 6 years after having her leg amputated following an accident. It's very important to me that I represent with him that community and show people that
It is attainable Smith told BBC Point West. Ultimately for me, I compete to try and represent a narrative of disabled people who have been in a life-changing injury or accident, getting back into sport and rediscovering their love for a pursuit of physical activity, especially in the water. It's really hard for amputees to get in the water because we don't get provisions for waterproof prosthetics. Smith was one of 2 gold medalists for Team England and the competition alongside Charlotte Benefield in the stand-3 category as the 10-person squad. Finished 7th overall in the 8th edition of the event, which formed in 2016. Team England has been at the forefront of preserving progress on the world stage in recent years. Yet Smith says there is still a long way to go. Overall, we do need a lot more sponsorship because trips to California to compete to keep up with your Hawaii's Australians USA is hugely expensive. Just the cost of being a disabled athlete is monumental, Smith said. We are really solid team. We've got some great servers, people on the fringes as well that are up and coming. There is a big, solid community spirit, so we're enjoying ourselves. Well, good people, that's all the news for today, and I am Sophia Hermawan. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.